God, Mum, you're not on Tinder.
Most people call it plenty of fuck.
We're going to make you a profile.
The Playing with Matches podcast, where women talk about their experiences dating online. Hello, and welcome to episode 8 of Playing with Matches, the podcast where we hear firsthand what it's like to be a woman navigating the complicated world of online dating in the 2020s. That's a long sentence. I had to write that down. Today we say hello to Ingrid. Ingrid has been online dating for some time, on and off, since the breakdown of, in her own words, an unhealthy marriage. It seems she had some fabulous times after her newly found singledom, going out for dinner with handsome young men and making some friends that she's kept to this day. But by her own admission, she has occasionally been duped by a handsome face, either by being fooled into thinking that this could be the one, whereas actually their personalities perhaps didn't match, or by the man turning up on the date not quite looking like he did in his profile picture. And obviously that's something that we have heard a lot about over the last few weeks. So Ingrid has been catfished, ghosted, and dumped out of the blue, and all of these are common themes on this podcast. Ingrid is very entertaining though. Lots of stories told with a great sense of humour. She's very eloquent, well-spoken, and she has some great advice to give, including the importance of finding happiness within yourself, rather than just looking for a man to fill that hole. I could have put that better, couldn't I? Sorry. She talks about the need to love yourself before looking for someone else to do that for you. There you go. A cliche, but true, Ingrid says. This interview took place during the second UK lockdown, as most of our interviews did. There are a couple of references to that time in there as well. Ingrid was interviewed over Zoom by Denise, who regular listeners will know is my mother, so thank you, Denise. Thanks, Mum. I'll be back at the end, as always, for a little recap and sign-off. I'll also be reading out some of your emails. Until then, take it away, Ingrid.
I've got a lot to say about dating sites. I've done it for years, on and off, but way too long. The more I've thought about it, I've had an emotional roller coaster of online dating. There are times when it's really not done my mental health any good whatsoever. It can be quite destructive in that way. The thing is, I've done it for so long now, and I've been on my own for a long time as well now, and it's that desperation of not needing to be with anybody anymore. And I think that's the problem with it, isn't it? When you're really desperate to meet somebody and to fill that big gaping hole in your life when your marriage has gone wrong or whatever, there is this desperation to find somebody. And I did actually find somebody, and it went horribly wrong after 18 months. He just went, that was it. It was that all it was fun for me. And I was absolutely heartbroken. In that time, just me getting older and my daughter getting more grown up and me figuring out what my priorities are. And a man isn't going to necessarily fill that. And it's going to take somebody really special to fill that. And the more I'm looking at these dating sites, I'm not actually sure they work in a lot of ways, because what somebody physically looks like in a picture, I like a nice looking man, obviously, as does everybody. But actually, when I meet people out and about in real life, it's not necessarily the looks that you are drawn to. It's something about them, isn't it? It's a persona. It's them. And that, unfortunately, doesn't really come across on dating sites. So I think we're all flicking and going, no. And you could have passed 10 thoroughly lovely men that I might have met in real life and gone, oh, he's lovely, isn't he? But on a page, I just go, I'm not sure about that. And I think everybody does it. It's a brilliant comedy thing. It's an Australian group who do this thing, and they go, all the men on Tinder. I don't know if you've seen it. And all the men look at Tinder and they go, yeah, she's, I'd do her. Yeah, great. And then you've got all the women going, oh no, he doesn't like this. And oh no, he's got it. No. And this seems to be it. Women are looking for something, their knight in shining armor, and men are just looking for, I'd do that basically. So I left my husband on New Year's Eve, 2014. It was a while back. But it was New Year's Day. It's been a very unhealthy relationship for a very long time. abusive in a way that, not physically, but anyway, again, this is one of those things I don't particularly want to go into, but it was very unhealthy. And my daughter was 10 at the time, and I just thought, this is not how I'm going to bring her up. I don't want her thinking it's okay for somebody to talk to me like that, because it's not. And I left, and I'd been scared to leave for years. I'd been scared to leave. You know, that's a whole nother story. But anyway, through the stress and stuff, I'd got super fit. I was super slim and feeling really, quite good about myself. There was still this relationship. And I just, in the end, I said, that's enough. Enough is enough. And actually I did, it was New Year's Eve, and I ended up kissing somebody. And I've never been unfaithful in my whole life. And I went home and I said, that's it. I just kissed a stranger, you don't do that if you're in a happy marriage, and I cannot do this anymore. And I left, and it was done. And he was very controlling and went a bit bonkers for a bit. It was quite abusive. So then I suddenly went onto these dating sites, and as I say, I was super slim at the time, and I chopped all my hair off when I left him. I had this little tiny pic, proper, all the classic things. Leave my husband, chop my hair off, get fabulous. And I went on these dating sites, and there were younger, gorgeous, handsome men interested in me. And I went, yeah, I'll have a bit of that. And I did. And I played the game that lots of the men do. And I did do it, and hands up, and I had a ball. I had a lovely, lovely time. And I think they were all quite happy about it. I was very happy about it. But it does start to wear thin quite quickly. And you kind of go, do you know what? I don't think I can be bothered. I was 44, and I kind of had these handsome lovers that I could just phone up on, and they'd take me out for dinner, and, younger men. And I was kind of going, and I didn't care. I didn't want to be emotionally involved with anybody. It was just flattery after 10 miserable years, and it was lovely. But then I met this particular man who we just got on like I've never got on with anybody. He was the polar opposite of my ex-husband. He was organised and sensible, and but a little bit wild as well. And the banter was amazing, and the sex was off the limits. And we met every weekend, pretty much, Thursday, Friday. He had 2 boys. And then after a year or so, nothing was changing. He didn't ever want to go. You think by that point, should we be going on holiday together, or should we be doing this or that? And there was always an excuse, It was always oh, no, I can't because of the boys. And I started to think, well, this isn't really going anywhere. And I was completely smitten. I don't think he was as smitten. And I think, that's the trouble, isn't it? Where you kind of know they're not quite as smitten as you. And I think insecurity started to creep in. And then one day, out of the blue, he came to pick me up one day from a works do, and just said, that's it, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not interested in you, I'm not interested in a relationship. And lo and behold, on Facebook, 3 months later, he's off to Marrakesh with another woman. So that broke my heart. And what it does as well is I realised actually the person I'd been when I'd started these dating sites, this fabulous, confident woman, had just gone, I was really very low and very insecure. I'm thinking, Jesus, if I got that wrong, how wrong? Do you know what I mean? It's your judgment, isn't it? I'm thinking, God, I thought that was really something. And I remember his lines. He said, oh, well, Ingrid, we had fun, didn't we? I'm like, God, 18 months worth of fun. And we used the love word. I thought it was more than that. But that really crushed me, big style. And then weirdly enough, I think you start to I made worse judgments with the people I met. I've been watching that program, what is it, Love or Money or something, in the mornings about these people who have been scammed. £80,000 this woman has given this chap, and she hadn't even met him. And you watch it and you're thinking madness, but do you know what? I can get it. I gave a man, I think, probably about 10 hours of my phone time chatting to then find out it wasn't him. It wasn't him. They weren't his photos. I've been, so that's catfishing. I've had that. I got ghosted by a chap who I'd been seeing who we were getting on thoroughly well. He was lovely. He seemed it was nice. He said, I'm coming round for Sunday roast tomorrow. we'd seen each other for a good sort of 4 or 5 weeks. And then 2:30 came and I messaged and said, are you coming? And nothing and nothing and nothing, and went on, and he just disappeared off the face of the earth. Weird. And then about 6 weeks later, I got a message. Hi, Ingrid, really sorry I disappeared. And he said, I just got the wobbles. I'm like, do you know what? That's not good enough. It's just not good enough. And men tend to do this thing. I don't know if women do it as well. But you meet somebody and you start chatting, and then you kind of go, do you know what? I'm really not sure about this. Men just don't bother saying anything. Whereas I say to people, look, I'm terribly sorry. It slapped me back in the face a few times. I've said, look, do you know what? I've chatted to you a bit. I'm not really feeling it. Because I think it's better to do that than leave somebody hanging. Unfortunately, I've done that a couple of times and then be told, well, fuck you. You time waster. There's 10 a penny women like you on these dating sites. Who the F do you think you are? I've literally had that sort of message back. So I do try and just be very honest and say, that quite often there isn't a vibe. And funny, I've learned this thing. You can message and message and message and message, and it can all sound very, oh, yeah. And then actually you talk on the phone for 2 minutes and you go, oh, God, no. Yeah. And you can even talk on the phone and think, oh, okay. And then you meet and you go, oh, God, no. To actually sometimes, until you truly meet up close, you don't know. But I also think there's a level of addiction with it. That's another point. Why do I keep going on there? I still do. I have the apps and then I delete them all after a bit and go, what are you doing? This is just depressing. Then after a few weeks, I'll just have another look. Plenty of fish. Which is actually how I met the guy I fell in love with. And I think I've had probably more dates from that than anything. But I don't know if it's just gone downhill or my opinion of it has gone downhill. I think it's gone a bit, it's the kind of dick picky one now. It's just got a bit, men in their chests, and it's just, please, I don't need to see it. Tinder, obviously, because it's easy. I just tried Hinge because somebody said it's quite entertaining. I was vaguely entertained for about 2 hours and that was it. I went on Zoosk way back when I first went on them, and that just felt like slot machines. It was like, bloody hell, they just keep charging you and charging you and charging you. And there's this thing, you sign up to certain subscriptions and then you think, I only want 6 months. And actually I've had to argue match. I fought them tooth and nail to get my money back because they just kept doing it. And then I tried to go do some of the posh newspaper ones, the Independent or whatever. Oh, God. No. They go, here's your match for the day. And he lives in Edinburgh and he's 72, It's like, no. I am a sucker for a pretty face. And I do tend to like the younger looking, the younger looking guys look great. But actually, that's not really what I need or want in my life. I'm a real sucker for correct grammar and spelling. And if you cannot spell properly, to me, it's pretty much an instant no-no. And I know that's so judgy. But I said to my friend, we were going through lists of things I have now as to why I won't do it. And I said, cats, no, because I'm allergic to them, really. Can't be going around somebody who's got cats in the house. They can't spell. Too many tattoos. The list goes on, and you just go. There's not a lot of people left, are there? Now, and people in their photos that only wear sunglasses. I learned big lesson at the beginning not to take. Don't believe what you see. And also somebody who's only put one picture up. No, don't believe that. Yeah. We can all look really good in one picture. I notice now the ones that are these stock shots where somebody's borrowed them. I can spot them a mile off now. Yeah, you can tell they're a different quality. You must take it with a pinch of salt. And I think when you start to get emotionally invested in somebody that you haven't really even met, that's the danger of it. Having watched that program with these intelligent women and men who have given loads of money to other people, to these people, it's very easy to get emotionally if you're lonely or you're fairly vulnerable. A single mum and it's her one night off of the week or something. She's sitting there with a bottle of wine. It's ever so easy to kind of get schmoozed by it all. One of the things I will say as well is I've made some really, lovely friends from it. That's one of the nicest things I've got. I've got some men friends, probably only 3 or 4 over the last few years, who I still stay in contact with. A couple have met women in there, but I'm happy, you know what I mean? And also people who have been through stuff. There was one chap, I went through a really rough time emotionally when, after the breakup and this and that, there was other stuff going on as well. And he was really there for me. He'd been through an awful lot. And I was having a panic attack and he phoned me and talked me through it. And, so really precious friends. I've got a younger guy who nothing ever happened. We had a date and went, "You're way too young for me," and he's lovely. But we just get on, and he only lives up the road, and we go for dog walks and see each other. And I just met his latest girlfriend. And so, that's lovely that comes from it. And there are good, genuine people out there. I was chatting to a guy the other day, actually, and just said, wouldn't it be amazing to do more than a socially distanced dog walk? Because you don't really get to know somebody on a social, it's not quite the same as going for a meal and sitting there and having a couple of drinks and stuff. I mean, it's not a bad starter, actually. And actually, these days, to be honest, before I even bother to meet somebody for a drink, I do tend to suggest a quick walk first and a coffee, just so you don't have to put yourself through dinner if they're not what you thought. I'm still been wrong, though. I've met people, I've had 2 or 3 dates, and then on about the 4th date gone, "What are you thinking?" As my eyes are glazing over and I'm thinking, Jesus, it was a handsome face, got you again, There's so many people on there that for all he's chatting to you and you're thinking, "Oh, lovely." But he's doing exactly the same thing with 5 other people. I had that done to me, actually. I was meeting this chap, this is a while back. We were going to the gym together and going swimming together. And I did sleep with him for a while. And then on the very few weeks in, I did. Next day, he says to me, "Well, listen, I've been thinking about it, and there's been 3 of you on the go. And I've decided to go with the ballet dancer who lives in East Grinstead, not you." And I went, you could have told me that before I slept with you, that there were 3 of us, that you were contemplating which one you wanted most. Yeah, the arrogance. To be fair, in this day and age, you could have been dating people that I'd met in a club and exactly the same rubbish could have been happening. So people are still shits outside of dating websites. One of my profiles, I said, it was listed something, "I like this, and I like this, and I like that, and I would like to find this in somebody and that in somebody." And somebody literally messaged me and said, "Your profile is just all about you, isn't it?" And you want to go, "Yeah, I thought that was kind of the point." He literally said that. It was really like, "Who do you think you are? Your profile's all about you." Yeah. I've had some really horrible messages from people. People can be quite abusive and horrible on these things. Any negativity on a thing, instant no for me. You don't put negativity when you're trying to sell something. Anyone who knows anything about sales or selling, you don't throw in negatives. But I would just get these sudden WhatsApp messages from somebody who I've not got their number in my phone. Big Willie. I'm like, "Wow, Jesus, what's that? Hi, remember me?" No, I don't. I've never met you before. And it would be it's usually the youngsters, the kind of mid-30s guys, Think, "Oh, she's an older bird. She'll love this." No. I just go, or, "Look, girls." You kind of feel a bit sorry for them, don't you? If that's how you feel, you need to get a woman's attention. If your wit, your brain is so inadequate that you think that's going to get my attention more than anything else. But I have been asked many times, especially at the beginning when I was more naive, video calls, let's get horny, let's do this, let's do that. And I was I think I got led down that path a few times at the beginning when I didn't really care anyway, but I wouldn't these days, not. One of my favourite stories still to this day is where the guy asked it for his money back. We met in a local pub. It was the first date after about 9 months of not dating. pictures all look quite nice, quite nicely posed, and he looked quite handsome. But, the second I walked in and saw him, it was like, oh, God, no. I completely got the wrong vibe from you, from your pictures. You're just not my cup of tea at all. Anyway, he was already sitting there at the bar and he said, would you like a drink? And I said, yeah, it's okay, I'll get it. And he said, no, my card's behind the bar. Let me get it. Are you sure? Thank you. Then we did have some lunch because we'd arranged to. And at the end of it, we went up to, and it was just the dullest lunch ever. He was telling me about parking tickets, how all gay people are promiscuous, where you just want to go, I'm being nice here. I'm being nice. I just want to get out of this date now. And we went up to pay. And obviously I went, no, I'll pay half. Because I thought, really, and I said, let me pay half. No, honestly, and he's going, no, let me pay. I went, no, honestly, please let me pay half. When they then say again, no, let me pay. At this point, it's starting to turn, because the lady's standing there, it's starting to look like an argument. So I kind of went, okay. I just thought, God, I can't keep saying. It was about the fifth go I said, let me. Anyway, went home, and about 2 or 3 hours later, got this message. Hi, it was lovely to meet you. Would you like to meet again? And I kind of went, do you know what? I thought, what's the nicest excuse? And I said, having met you, it's been a while for me and I don't really think I am ready to date again. Thank you, but no thank you. And the next message came back, well, you could have effing paid half. And I said, well, I did offer about 8 times, mate. I offered and offered. He said, you can send me the money. He literally said, I said, you really seriously want to give me your bank details? He said, I wouldn't trust you with my bank details. You can send me a check. So basically, had I said, yes, I would like to see you again, he was quite happy. He wanted his money back. I love that. It's hilarious, isn't it? I have done the old getaway call a few times. I did a brilliant one once, and I was just couldn't get away from this guy. He was so just talking at me about how fabulous he was and how he'd done this and he'd done that, and it was just a monologue. And I was glazing over, and I just thought, I've got to go. So I texted one of my best friends, and I said to Eva, I said, darling, please, can you give me a call and pretend that there's an incident? So he's wonderful, right? He's gay, he's a camper, and he phones up. But what I loved about it was he was playing the part at the end of the phone, right? That there really was an incident. Darling, there's been a terrible accident. One of the dogs has been run over. You must come and help me. So I'm all hyped up, right? Going, oh, I'm so sorry. My friend's dog's just been run over. I've got to go. And it was just all lies. And he was at the end, he was about 4 doors down. At home, just pretending. So I went, oh, Jesus, I better. So this guy goes, let me come with you. And you go, no, don't come with me. So I actually, this is stupid. It's my neighbour who I knew was at home 4 doors down. I actually got in my car and drove to the place where we pretended that the accident had happened. Sat in my car for 10 minutes and drove back. I don't know why I did that. I just thought, because in case he's following me, I got rid of a few like that. I had one guy, I met him, and literally in about 30 seconds of meeting, this is awful. We sort of had finished a drink, and he went, so do you want to go back to yours then? Literally one drink. And I looked at him and I said, I'm really sorry, this isn't really right for me. And he said, why? I said, well, you're not quite what I thought you were going to be from your pictures and stuff. And he looked at me and he went, well, neither are you. You're a bit fatter than your pictures. And he slammed his drink down and walked out. Fabulous. One guy, bless him, I met him about 4 or 5 times. He lived in Hull, and he actually came down, travelled all the way from Hull to meet me. And he was gorgeous looking, very tall and handsome. And he walked up the road with this huge bouquet of flowers, and it was instant. We adored each other, but it was just one of those, this is ridiculous. You live in Hull, you're not moving on. But yeah, I had a little, there's those little things happen, little moments of, oh, that was nice, but it's not reality. But I've had some real horrendous ones. One chap turned up in his wellies. Yeah, for a date. One guy I met, bless him. That's another one. Don't go out with anyone unless you can see their teeth in a photo. Went out with a guy, he had 2 teeth missing at the front here, and literally had a pair of DMs hanging off. And I'd gone for the charm factor. Obviously, he's quite charming, but when you go, and I like to dress up really nicely for a date, where you sometimes turn up and go, oh my God, I've got to sit, we don't look like we should be together. I've had lots like that. There was a guy from Coventry, that was it. I only met him once, bless him, came all the way down. Trained it for about 5 hours, and we just spent the day together. It was his birthday. Nothing happened. Just spent the day together, had a really nice time. One chap, he started dating me. He lived quite a while away in Winchester. And basically, he found out his wife was having an affair, and I was his equivalent. And then she found my number, and I got all these awful messages from her. What are you doing with my husband? It was like, oh my God. Yeah, so there's quite a lot of that goes on, I think. I can't believe the audacity actually on Tinder where people say, I'm married, but just looking for. Women really, well, I suppose some women must go for that. Funnily enough, it was nothing to do with dating sites, but a friend once took me on one of these dating club things. It was just the most awful night. I turned to they forced us onto this table. There was only about 10 people there, and you scanned the room and went, no, nobody here for me. And then this chap forced us all to talk to each other, and I'm kicking my friend under the table who had asked me to go with her, and nobody was saying anything. So I thought, oh, come on, Ingrid, let's start it. And I said, so tell me about yourself. What, why are you here? And he said, I'm friends with the guy who's running it. Oh, okay. And why are you here to the next one? I'm here because he's my friend. Oh, okay. And I said, what do you do? He said, I'm in security. Okay. Where's that? In a charity shop. Oh, okay. That's interesting. And I said, and why are you here? And he said, well, because I've not been doing very well at dating, and actually I've just declined to go on the undateables. And, I'm kicking my friend going, we're actually sitting here with people who are going on the undateables website. This is not great. That program, and it literally, it was just, it was quite funny because it's not comedy material comes from some of these things, seriously, that I just walked away thinking, at least I'm at an advantage that I find it very easy to talk to people. How does this work for people who don't find it easy to talk? This one chap said, I remember asking them, I said, so what happens with this club? He said, well, we meet once a month. And I said, and who comes? It's the same people every month. It's not working very well as a dating club. And I said, you know what? Statistically, you might stand more chance if you were to go onto a dating site online. Because actually getting together with the same 10 or 15 people every month, it's not working, is it? I didn't go back, funnily enough. As I say, take it all with a pinch of salt these days. Don't go, I think, it's this thinking, I'm going to find love. It's not tangible, is it? You don't necessarily know. It's difficult to kind of figure that out. And I don't know, but I think, personally speaking, as I've got older, it's harder to fall in love as you get older. And I'm not sure why. Well, I guess because you've learned so many mistakes. My ex-husband, we're really good friends now. But knowing what I know now, I would never have gone out with him. Do you know what I mean? It's just, that's the joy of being 25 years older. I know that now. I can spot things that I go, no, that's not going to be good for you. And I guess we're more capable of taking care of our own emotional needs. And so you spot danger signs that when you're young, you go, oh, he'll change. No, you won't. It's finding happiness in yourself. And as I say, if you think what I've said since this interview went on at the beginning, I was in a very dark place, the end of not a happy marriage. Although I guess I felt kind of elated in some ways, I think there was probably an awful lot going on and need. There was this need for I don't know, to be wanted and to be liked and to be appreciated. And that's, I guess, and that's a lot of it, isn't it, with people? I've been through it now, I had a good year, as I say, and I saw a therapist and stuff, and I started to realise what I was doing and getting involved with the wrong people, not necessarily particularly really involved, but just being influenced and caring too much about what men thought, or this particular man at this particular, got into a couple of quite unhealthy relationships when I look back. Not long, only a few weeks worth, with, a couple of people, but not healthy. And then I, as I say, left it alone, went off, sorted myself out. And as I say, and it's being on your own for a decent period of time and I say that, don't be on your own and be miserable all that time, because it's not going to work, is it? Be on your own and find yourself and realize that you don't actually really need anybody. It would be lovely to meet somebody, but I don't need you, and that's the difference. And I remember people, you hear this all your life, don't you? You can't. Nobody can love you until all that. It is true. It is, the underlying truth is there. This therapist lady I saw, she said to me, because I said, this guy who broke my heart, I said, but in every way, he just seemed so perfect. And she said, do you know what, Ingrid? She said, if a relationship seems 100% perfect, it's not going to be. She said, aim for about 80 to 85% perfect, and you're probably okay. But she said, when something appears to be 100% perfect, probably not quite the reality that you think it is, which I think is very true. It'll come along one day. I'm sure it will. I'm sure I'll meet the right person for me one day. I've had good experiences. I've had bad experiences. I've had some really super fun times. I've had some really shitty times with it. But I've made some lovely friends as well. And that's important. And actually friends who've got your back. That's the nice thing, which makes you realise there are some decent, genuine men out there. There are. It's to remind yourself. My brother's a really lovely guy, you see. So I'm like, I know, because my brother is a really super lovely husband, caring, so I know they exist. I do know they exist.
So that was the marvellous Ingrid. There's something about her that makes me want to sit up straight and enunciate clearly, which is not my natural stance. So I should try harder. I mean that as a high form of praise. I really do. She speaks beautifully. Some great stories there, and some not so nice ones. As we've already heard so often, there's a particular type of behaviour that it seems maybe men are more prone to than women, on the evidence of our interviews at least. And it seems to be one around communication, where someone can just disappear after you thought it was going so well. Or if you try and communicate yourself that things aren't working out, then you might be faced with an angry or defensive response. I'm sure that isn't solely a peculiarity amongst men, but maybe some of us could work on our communication skills. I think in the past I have been guilty of just dropping out of a chat without warning. But I do know that when I messaged a couple of women to say that I would not be contacting them in the future due to my being in a relationship, their responses really surprised me. They seemed, at least outwardly, genuinely pleased for me and grateful that I had let them know. Maybe the fact that this was a surprise to me demonstrates a fundamental difference between some men and women, I don't know. Did my ego expect them to be devastated, or maybe I just walk around with a guilty conscience, always feeling the need to pay that dick tax? See previous episodes for clarification of that term. Well, a lot to think about there, for me at least, evidently. So, as promised, let's get to some correspondence. You can email us at playingwithmatchespodcast@gmail.com, or one word, playingwithmatchespodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from you with your questions, opinions, stories, anything. So here's a couple. So the first email this week is from Zoe. Zoe says, loving the podcasts, Mark. Thank you, Zoe. I can relate personally to lots of the experiences we've heard about. I wondered if you have thought about interviewing men. As a woman, I'd really like to know whether they have as many awful experiences as we do. Well, thank you very much, Zoe. That's really interesting and a totally valid question. And maybe that's time for me then to revisit the seeds of this podcast, the germ of how it came about. A few years ago, I was looking for relationships, or didn't really know what I was letting myself in for on dating apps. And I was just surprised by how many interesting women there were, because I think initially I thought it was just a kind of a hookup kind of a place. But also it seemed there were so many women that were kind of jaded and a bit fed up by stuff. And so I started asking them questions, and then the filmmaker in me kind of took over, and I started to think this would be an interesting story. And from my point of view, it was about, rather than telling my own stories and experiences, it was about me listening to other people's, i.e. women's, an experience of which I can only, imagine, and to contrast and compare it to my own. Maybe there's lessons to be learned by men, and maybe there's something that women can relate to. Maybe there are things that we can all relate to, and maybe there are things we can all learn from. Coming up, we do have a couple, a young woman and a young man who met through online dating, and now they have a child together, and she wanted to be interviewed together with her partner. And so we get an insight into their experiences. There is definitely the story to be told of men's experiences dating online. And maybe I or someone else will tell that story eventually. Okay, it's time for one more quick email. And this one is from Holly. It's been fascinating listening to all the women so far, but I wanted to share my positive experience of dating sites. Me and my two closest friends are all in long-term relationships that started on apps. And between us, we have 5 children. Just putting some hope out there. Well, that's lovely. What a lovely way to end the show, Holly. Thank you very much. I think that Ingrid pointed out very well that being a happy and well version of yourself is a good place to start, rather than looking for it in others. But it's still lovely to get a happy ending like that. And for many people, a relationship can be just what you need to feel ready to face the world. It's certainly true in my case. Okay, excellent. I think that just about wraps us up for this week. Thank you so very much to Ingrid for her lovely and invaluable contribution. Thank you to Denise for doing the interview. Thanks, Mum. Thank you to Joanna for making the interview happen, and to Elle for her help with the editing. Until next week, good luck out there and on there. Bye-bye.